Hi hamster lovers and welcome to Pancake's channel. Today I'm going to be sharing some tips on how to keep your hamster cool over the summer. First of all, it's important to note that the room should be kept between 18 to 24 degrees Celsius or 65 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Tip number 1 is to freeze your hamster's bath sand. Place the sand in a Ziploc bag or container and place this in the freezer for a few hours, then put it back in the enclosure. Tip number 2 is to freeze any ceramic items in your hamster's enclosure. Freezing disinfected stones or marble tiles is also a good idea. My third tip is to make sure they have a supply of clean, fresh, cold water at all times. It's important that the water doesn't get too warm, as bacteria grows better in warm environments. Tip number 4 is to give your hamster foods with a higher water content. This includes foods like cucumber, celery and watermelon. However, it's important not to give them too many watery foods, as this can give them diarrhea. This isn't good as it can dehydrate them even further. Watermelon is quite high in natural sugar, so it's important to only feed it to them occasionally. For tip number 5, you could try freezing some of their food or treats. Make sure it's not too cold though, as hamsters have very sensitive digestive systems. Things that are very hot or cold can potentially give them diarrhea. Tip number 6 is to close the blinds in the room. Blinds deflect the sun's heat before it gets in the room. This will cool the room down. You could also use a fan or air conditioner to keep the room cool. Make sure to not have this blowing directly in the cage or on the hamster. The hamster would find this stressful. Instead, you could use this to just cool the whole room down. In hot weather, it's better to use aspen bedding than paper-based bedding. This is because aspen bedding doesn't retain as much heat as paper-based bedding. Tip number 9 is to not get rid of your bedding depth. This is because when you have a deep substrate, it's going to be cooler down in the burrows. My final but most important tip is to keep the enclosure out of direct sunlight. This means you shouldn't have it by a window. Also, make sure the enclosure has enough ventilation. I've heard of quite a few people putting ice cubes in their hamster's water, so here's why I don't recommend doing this. As I mentioned earlier, hamsters have very sensitive digestive systems, so if they have anything that's very hot or cold, then this can give them diarrhea. This will dehydrate them. Another reason is that the hamster's tongue can get stuck on the ice cube. Hamsters drink so little water every day that adding ice cubes won't change anything overall. They can be potentially harmful, so it's worth just changing the water like you normally do, but make sure it's just under room temperature. That's the end of this week's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing. Bye!